Hello and welcome to another episode of All Things Real Estate with your host, Kyle Seyboth, Century 21, serving Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. As always, we have a super special guest on, and today we kind of mix it up a little bit, and I like where we're going to go today as I introduce him in a minute, because I think it's important that the market goes through peaks and valleys, highs and lows, troughs and summits, right? So we got so many different angles for the market. But today, I'd like to introduce my friend. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Rich King. I am the Executive Vice President of Nationwide Abstrax.
And for the common person,
Yeah.
treat me right now like I'm 5.
Yeah.
What the heck does that mean?
Okay. So what we do is a very essential part of the process of exchanging real estate. What our responsibilities as a company do is, on a nationwide scale, we take, and I'll try to do it in the simplest term, and everyone's familiar with a Carfax is, correct?
Yeah.
Everyone knows you can get this background check on a car. What we do is very similar, except it's for real estate.
Yeah.
What we do is we get a list of properties, single or multi-list of properties for various companies, and we run a background check on them. We find that the person who's on the deed, we pull all the legal documents, how much the person owes, if there's any liens, if there's any code violations, municipal situations that would jeopardize a potential buyer or investor from obtaining that property free and clear. Our reports are sent on a high volume scale to potential investors, and they make a business decision and a risk decision based on what we find on a property.
So you basically dissect the property and understand who the owners are, if the liens are on it, all the stuff with the property before someone can buy it.
Correct.
Who do you do that for? Are you doing it for the banks? Are you doing it for me? Who are you doing that for?
So traditionally what I did was really pared down to local attorneys. They would go years back and do what they call a title exam. Mm-hmm. They'd research the title at the county level, pull the documents, and then decide whether the bank's free and clear to issue title insurance policy, A, or B, will they find any issues on the title that would affect their investment. Now, with the way the market is, our audience has grown tremendously. We service people that you'd never think of, companies, Wall Street, big investors, people that buy non-performing mortgages. As a matter of fact, one of my customers recently was Tesla. They wanted me to run multi amounts of sites across the country in strip malls in various locations because they want to put up the charging stations.
Yeah.
So they have to know who owns that. Is there an issue? When I go to do that, are there any zoning problems? Will I run into anything? So it goes from, situations like a Tesla. We do work for cell phone tower companies, and we do work for local title companies. So, as a matter of fact, we're going to be starting to do a lot of work for the realtor that would need such a report.
So if I'm a buyer and I'm buying 123 Main Street and I'm using Joe Mortgage Company, do you get involved? I personally don't get involved. However, the buyer in that situation could contact companies like myself to say, look, before I put a bid on, I want to know about it. Okay. So you would get involved in this. You're not the attorney, just to make it clear. You're not the closing attorney.
I am not.
No. You're the title exam. You're basically doing the examination of the title,
correct,
the abstract, right?
Yes.
And you're making sure that everything looks good.
Absolutely.
So if I'm local attorney and I'm Joe attorney, right? And I work with a bunch of mortgage companies and they want a title, they want to pull the title. Does it go through you?
It does. The attorney, we would be working as a contractor for the attorney because they seldomly go to the records.
Do their own, right?
Right.
So you'd be the subcontractor under the closing attorney.
Absolutely.
And then you would get a fee based upon, from the attorney, they would just pay you a fee to go ahead and do the title work.
Yes, absolutely correct.
All right. So now let's fast forward. We both agree that we've been in a super high real estate market.
Yes.
And we both can agree that what goes up must go where?
Down.
Must come down. So if we both agree on that, foreclosures, short sales, forbearance, all this stuff will come to a head at some point.
Absolutely.
Right now it's kind of building. At some point it's going to start to really build.
Yes.
What do you see as far as a timeline? Because if someone were to buy a foreclosure now, you could go a month and not see one. Mm-hmm. So when do you see that switching?
Yeah. So the interesting thing of what I do is, you wouldn't think so, is we are the first indicators of what the market's doing. Behind the scenes, these Wall Street guys are experts.
Right.
They know the trends. And what we're starting to see now is them piquing interest, mm-hmm. and them saying, hey, look, I want you guys to look at 40,000 of these loans that a specific bank is holding. I want you to do a report on every one of these properties. Mm-hmm. And they pay a lot of money for that. It's a lot of money to do that diligence, only for them to make a risk decision based on that. So those indicators are coming up where I'm getting major inquiries, and I'm doing a lot of these large-scale projects for people that don't have to do it. Uh-huh. They want to do it.
They're staying ahead of it.
They're staying ahead of it because they have the indications that something's going to go down.
Yeah.
And when it goes down, that's when these guys step up and they buy multitudes of these loans.
Yeah.
They buy them, they trade them, they sell them. They try to get a performing loan performing.
Yeah.
So a lot of these players are starting to resurface. And what I'm seeing is, October through December, I think that, the forbearance stuff is going to, get tiring.
Yeah.
And people are going to get used to not paying.
I know.
And I think that we're going to hit, that situation again.
So forbearance becomes long in the tooth. People get sick of it. Mm-hmm. People stop paying. I think what a lot of people don't realize is it's really hard to go from not paying anything to back to paying again.
Yep.
So we're naive to believe that Joe homeowner can go ahead and not pay $1 for 6 months or 8 months and then just, whoop, I'm going to start paying my mortgage again. That's not going to happen.
Yep.
So if that happens and we see the government, number one, allow the moratorium to be lifted on foreclosures and auctions, mm-hmm. and number two, lift any forbearance rescue plan that's in place, how long do you think before these things start to hit? So October, I'm with you. I think the fall, it starts to kind of surface a little, but I think you're still a little ways out.
Well, so the process that I do is so many different angles at this in the indicators. The first thing we're going to see is non-performing notes.
Yes.
The notes aren't performing, all right? And the bank that's holding them says, look, I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah.
So an investor comes along and says, I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
I'll buy it off you for less. Then what I'm going to do is, A, I'm going to finish and wait out the foreclosure, or B, I'm going to go in front of the homeowner and I'm going to negotiate and make it performing again, and then I'm going to sell it back to the guy I bought it from.
Yeah.
And then you'll see a lot of people doing short sales to avoid foreclosure.
Yeah.
When they start to see that, hey, this is real, they're going to start doing this. And then you're going to see deeds in lieu of foreclosure, things like that, voluntary stuff. And then, you're correct. And then by the time, the hammer comes down, it's just going to come down in floods. And I think that, there's going to be quite a bit of foreclosures going on. Pre-foreclosures. So we do the report in every stage, mm-hmm. before the people even know we're doing the report, during, and then we have to do post-foreclosure, all the same report.
So so for a pre-foreclosure, you're catching that from the bank? Who's asking you to do that? Or the capital market company?
The capital market, the bank that's holding the note if it starts to get sketchy before they do anything. Mm-hmm. They want to know, look, is it only our lien that's affecting this? Or could it be, is there a mechanics lien? Chances are that if they're not paying their mortgage, they're not paying their taxes.
Yeah, taxes and you got a water lien, a sewer lien, a tax lien, municipality lien.
They want to know all of that, and then at that point they make a decision whether this thing's too shady for our likings, or it's not something that we want to keep, and then they'll introduce it to what they call non-performing loan people, mm-hmm. holding a different cast of characters.
Yep. So how long have you been doing this?
10, 20. 15 years about, probably.
So were you in the last downturn?
Absolutely.
So compare the last 3 years to that time. What was the biggest difference you saw? Were you busier then and not busy as now?
No, I got right in it when I was actually, it was pretty intense. One of my biggest clients that I could mention is, auction.com. They allow me to mention them. They're the national auction. They do the dirty work. They do everything. They sell it. They buy it. And we were getting pools back in 2000 and I would even say 18, 17 of 10,000 at a time.
10,000 at a time.
Yeah, and yep, and then they would, so it was pretty intense. It was at the point where you could go, out to dinner with a couple, and they say, "Oh, we're being foreclosed on," and it became so accepted, and nobody years ago you say that it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
People don't want the neighbors to know.
Yeah.
Now it's
I think it's still accepting.
Yeah.
It's still because we just went through it.
Yeah.
I think people are like, okay, all
Right.
right, he got foreclosed.
Right.
Okay, cool. They can buy again in 5 years.
Yeah.
Oh, they did a short sale. They can buy again in 2 years.
Exactly.
No big deal.
Yep.
But I think we're gonna get to that part of the cycle again.
Absolutely.
And I think that for you, you're definitely a leading indicator of when it happens.
Yes.
Like you would know before anybody else.
I believe so.
You're gonna be the guy who's gonna say, "Watch out below," like it's about to hit the fan.
That's a great analogy. Yeah.
Right? It's about to hit.
Yep.
And I think that's good to know. You and I talked about some different ways that we can help some of the national firms, with the foreclosures here, and I think we're going to do a good job at that.
Absolutely.
If you had any advice to a homeowner that was in forbearance right now and didn't know what to do, now I know that's not your space, but just as a human, what would you tell them?
I would say first find out what's going on. Things are recorded at your county level that you wouldn't even know. They don't send a letter out saying, "Hey, guess what? We just put a lien on your house."
Right.
You don't get any information about that. So go down to your county, your town, or your local registry of deeds, or your clerk. Every county town has one. Public records. Go down and research your title. Ask the clerk, how do I do it on my own? Find out, hey, look, how bad a shape I'm in. See if there's any, notices that went there, first of all. And if there is, it's very easy at that point, because the bank doesn't want to go through the nonsense.
I think that's the thing that people don't understand.
Yeah.
The bank really doesn't want to foreclose.
Don't.
They want to avoid foreclosure at all costs.
Absolutely.
Right? Because it's more of a hassle. They're taking the law, it's just a pain in the butt. The whole process with the attorneys, the notices, all that stuff. And I think people look at the bank and say, big bad bank. I think the other way you should look at it is say, hey, the bank doesn't want to foreclose. Let's try to work a deal out with them.
Absolutely.
You need to, as a consumer, reach out to the bank and try to get that deal worked out.
You can, and they will in most cases, because it costs them more.
Right.
I mean, if it's a money thing, in the long run,
it costs more to foreclose.
More to foreclose. Then you get the house that could be abandoned for a while, and then it becomes what they call a zombie home.
Yep.
I don't know if those.
Zombie homes.
I do work all over the country, and the big thing in certain parts of the country is zombie homes where people just leave.
Yep. We saw that here back in 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
There were zombie homes. Probably not as many in some of the bigger parts of the country where you've got areas that spread out.
Yep.
Like here, because what happens is you got squatters, you got people that go in and rob. People need somewhere to live. So you don't see it too often. But yeah, definitely we saw that a lot.
Absolutely.
A lot more than now. Right now, there's nothing.
Yeah. And that foreclosure stuff triggers a multitude of industries. Number one, there's property preservation specialists.
Yeah.
All they do is maintain it while it's vacant.
Right.
I mean, it triggers real estate agents.
Right.
It triggers everything. But foreclosure is a guilty pleasure, I would say. It's terrible for families, but it sparks up a whole industry.
And it's been the biggest miss in the last 3 years, and one of the biggest culprit for the reason why we don't have a lot of inventory is because we're missing that whole piece of the pie.
Absolutely.
There are none.
And they're not here locally.
No.
The players that control this are on a national scale.
Right.
And they wouldn't know, Seekonk from Providence.
Correct.
They don't know.
Correct. They just know. They just look
know
at the
numbers.
pool of asset. Exactly.
Right.
They're just looking at the numbers.
Yep.
So with that, anything else you want to add as we come to the end?
No, I just think that it's very important that you get this report for anybody, not necessarily order it from a company like mine, but try to learn it on your own, even as a realtor. How many times have you got, maybe not you, but how many agents have got to a listing, got excited, signed, got everything signed, and right before the closing, when they do the title, the attorney says, "Wait a minute, where's Mrs. Smith?
That's not exactly.
She was supposed to be signing this agreement." Okay,
Happens a lot. Happens
Right.
to me. You get excited. You're just out there getting a listing, and come to find out that's not even the owner.
Right.
That's one of the owners.
What do you mean you only owed 180?
Right.
That's not true. You got 3 mortgages out, and
Right.
that's after you invested money,
Right.
time,
effort. You've got a buyer on the hook.
Yeah.
No,
so
I
even
think
as
that's
a realtor, getting like a pre-listing, this as a part of what you guys do, should be an essential part of what you guys do.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
I think this has been great. I think this has been one of the more informative ones we've done. So I thank you for coming on. And
Absolutely.
we appreciate it. And guys, we will see you next week. Everyone have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.